first thing I like to do is drain some brake fluid out of the master cylinder. But before I start, you're going to find that there's a screen that's going to block my suction hose from removing brake fluid. So you need to remove this screen first. I use the little pick and just work the screen out. Pops off really easy. After you do this, you drain the fluid, and the reason for that is so that when you depress the caliper pistons back, it's going to push fluid back into the master. So you need space in the master cylinder for the extra fluid to come back. A lot of times shops will top these off and it can cause it to overflow. Then just put your cap back on and you can start on the brake job. Now you can remove your wheels, and you can remove the caliper bolts. They are 12 millimeter, so I'm using my just a hand ratchet here to remove the bolts. Now you'll notice that this bottom one's being stubborn to remove, so I use a 19 millimeter wrench to hold the back of the nut for the caliper pin, and that should keep it from spinning around, and you can remove the bolt. Now once you remove the bolts, you can remove the caliper, and I usually like to set it on the control arm, or you can make a hanger and just hang it. You don't want it resting down on the brake hose because it can damage it. Now go ahead and remove your brake pads. Next, we'll remove the brake caliper anchor plate. It's held on by two 17 millimeter bolts. So here I'm going to use my 1/2 inch drive ratchet. You need a little leverage because it's on there kind of tight. Just set it aside. Now we're going to remove the disc rotor, and they're held on there by these little Phillips head screws. I'm using an impact driver here to remove these screws because sometimes they rest in there and they're very difficult to remove. For those who are wondering what I use to remove the rotor screws, I call this it's an impact driver. That's probably the right terminology. But anyways, it comes with different bits like this. This one here is a Phillips bit. You can put a flat edge on it. Comes off like that. And the way this tool works, it's really neat. So when you get those screws like I had that don't want to come out, when you drive it,
you hit it back here with a hammer, this tool actually twists. It'll actually force it to go left or right, but obviously you're removing it, so you want it to go left. So the way it works is it goes like this, and it'll just actually twist as you're impacting it forward, so it keeps it from slipping out.
Now when you get your new rotors, clean them off with brake clean and a rag, so you wipe off all the protective coating that they put on them that keeps them from rusting. I like to put a little anti-seize on the Phillips head screws that I'm going to put back for the rotors. This will keep them from rusting, and the next guy that comes and does this brake job will thank you. Now just go ahead and install your rotor and line up the holes so you can put the screws back in it. And I use a number 3 Phillips head screwdriver for this. It's perfect size. And these screws don't go on super tight, just snug. Even if they were to back out, for example, the wheel will hold them in place, so don't worry about it. Now go ahead and reinstall your caliper anchor bracket with the two 17mm bolts. This is a good time to check your caliper piston nuts. Make sure they move back and forth like you see me doing there. Make sure they're free. These are your brake pad anti-rattle clips, which we'll be installing. And I also like to use brake pads that have these backing plates on it. I find that they tend to not squeak as much. They're better pads. And if you notice, that's your little squeaker wear indicator. That's going to be on the inside pad facing down. Make sure that when you're installing your brake pad anti-rattle clips, center them on the rotor so that you're not leaning one way or the other. If you go too far to either side, they'll rub against the rotor and cause a squeak. Then go ahead and install your brake pads. And like I told you, the squeaker is on the inside pad facing down. Just like that. Now grab your caliper and be careful not to twist the hose around too much, like I'm doing right there. Just find where it's supposed to be. And then I'm using this tool here that is made for depressing the piston back into the caliper. If you don't have this, don't worry about it. You can use a pair of channel locks and just squeeze the piston back into place as far back as it will go. Once you have them where you want them, position the caliper and just go ahead and slide it over the caliper pin nuts. Then reinstall your two 12mm caliper bolts. Grab your 19mm wrench, hold the nut in place so you can tighten them down. And then you'll do the same thing on the other side. I like to put a little anti-seize on the wheel lug nut studs. Just a little bit goes a long ways. Then after you do that, go ahead and drain the remaining brake fluid out of the master cylinder that got pushed back from the calipers. Then go ahead and refill it with some clean .3 brake fluid. And then after that, you'll put your little dust cover back on, and then put the cap back on the master cylinder. And before you drive the vehicle, make sure you pump the brake pedal a couple of times, because the first time it will go to the floor, so don't be alarmed. Good luck.